Hello, Buttercup. Welcome back to my channel. Today's book review is The Return of the King by J.R.R Tolkien. I finally finished it after like 4 or 5 months. I'm gonna have to be honest with y'all. This was my least favorite of the 3-book series, and this might be a little chaotic of a review. Not like the best ending. And I might get crap for that, but you know what? I'm here today because I just need to say some things. I did enjoy it overall, but compared to the other two, I don't know. That was a little weird. But like the other 2 books, I did not rate it. So we're just here, okay? And I totally forgot where the pendant of Arwen went. It's somewhere in my house. We've been moving things around and all that stuff, so I'm not wearing it. And I can't find the ring either. I think that one's gone. That just disappeared. It's probably finding its own little place in the world, not with me. So I am not sporting any Lord of the Rings merch, unfortunately. I'm so sorry for those that were looking for that. But let's just jump in to what a journey this particular book was. But before we do that, I love this simple green cover. The other 2 are great as well, but you know what? I just love green. Okay, so that's where I'm standing. And I am very interested to see if I can get this book back into the box set, because, well, no, I didn't break the spine, but it's a little thicker than it was when I bought it. So thank you though, Brian, for sending me the box set. I appreciate it. And oh yeah, to note, I also read Appendix A and B. Did not read the family tree, don't care. I'm just being honest. And I did not really read the language parts because I don't get it. It's not gonna stick. I can barely speak English half the time, so I'm not going to understand a made-up language. I can sometimes barely understand English and its rules, so we're just gonna put this back here between the foxes. And I'm just going to talk about the intriguing parts and the confusing parts and the weird parts and the things that worked and didn't work for me. The other 2 books had notes written down. I don't have that, so we'll see how this goes. I think as a rating for the books, it would be favorite, The 2 Towers, then The Fellowship of the Ring, and then The Return of the King. For the movies, it's it's The 2 Towers, The Return of the King, and The Fellowship of the Ring. You know how so interesting that is? I don't know why I did not connect with The Return of the King in the book form, but I just did not. It was a struggle bus. It took like maybe 4 or 5 months, whereas the other 2 books, it did not take that long. I think the movie did do it better, and here's why, okay? So you have the appendix involving Aragorn and Arwen. You couldn't have included some of that stuff. I'm not saying all of it, but you couldn't have included any of that in the other books. I don't know why you have just a whole appendix when you could have slipped in some of those insights between Aragorn and Arwen. Like, it does not make sense to me. And I can understand why Peter Jackson included Arwen and even introduced things that were not at all her part, and replaced Arwen's character with this other like elf that I don't even remember his name. When they get to a certain point in the Fellowship of the Ring with the hobbits and Frodo getting stabbed and then Aragorn's trying to get them to Rivendell, and then that random elf, I don't remember his name, like where did he go? I don't know, but it made sense that Arwen is now in place of him, and then she's in all three of the movies, whereas like she is maybe mentioned once or twice in the Two Towers, maybe. You kind of see her a little bit at the end, and she gives Frodo the necklace for him to use when he's like done with the world, and he does use it. Okay, interesting. And then you see like a few mentions of Arwen in the first book. I don't get it. That was a weird choice, especially when you have Éowyn is very prominent. So I don't know if I'm not seeing it as like a we don't need another woman involved, because you have a whole appendix section for Arwen and Aragorn. You couldn't have slipped in like at least the little bit of a romantic kissy scene or something like that, because you did it in the appendix. I might just be completely missing the point of the appendixes, but here we are. Okay, I think Peter Jackson was smart to include Arwen in the movies. It brings a certain love story that makes sense. We don't talk about the Hobbit ones, okay? That love story did not make sense. No. I'm saying it made sense because it is present, but in the appendix, but it's still also in the books, but then you like expand on Arwen and her character. Okay, I get that, sure. Though there's another thing that makes more sense to not include in the movie, and that's the Scourging of the Shire. I don't know, that was weird as well. Do I 100% know why that was there other than Tolkien supposedly? I've listened to podcasts and stuff about the Scourging of the Shire where he is not pro-industrialism, and that somehow shows that whole topic. I don't know. I mean, sure. I have not read his letters or anything like that, so maybe he says it somewhere as to like why he included the Scourging of the Shire. I'm not that deep into that whole reading of all of his letters and all that stuff, so maybe it's around there. But I can see why Peter Jackson took that out of the movie, and also them traveling all that way back to their specific places, and they're just like leaving as they get to like their homeland or whatever. And also Gandalf just being like, peace out, you can deal with the Shire's problem, it's not mine anymore. It's like, okay, that felt weird, because his whole thing is like, oh, you know, I'm not part of this new age anymore, so this is the whole Shire situation is the new age and you hobbits have to deal with it. But okay, weird. And then I just have a problem, yes I do, about the whole situation with not killing Wormtongue or Saruman, and he keeps popping up just off him on the side of the road. Oh, but you're too good. You know what? How many people and other beings were killed because of those two? Thousands. So I would say the best option here is to kill both of them off, because then, oh look, you didn't fix the problem on the road, and look what happened when the four hobbits come back. Like, he's taken over all Hobbit land, basically. But you could have stopped that if you just, like, I don't know, grew a pair and offed him on the side of the road with Wormtongue. But, okay. We're just extending the problem. And then they don't even off those two, and they ran away somewhere to be crappy human beings somewhere else. Like, you're passing on the problem over and over again with these two characters. Okay. Like, okay. Weird choice. Like, you can be good and also off someone. especially in this situation with those two specific people. I'm not saying doing it to other people. I'm saying those two specific characters, just kill them, okay? And then you are now done. But they don't. So where did they go? And what? It's just, that was a weird choice as well. I can't logically figure that out other than like what Frodo says, like, oh, he didn't wrong me. What? He I would say he wronged many people for a very long time, Frodo. So why did you let him go? Also the fact that the hobbits against the ruffians in that particular chapter, you killed, was it, the number was like 70 human ruffians? You couldn't have added 72? Add 2, make it 72. You will kill the ruffians, but you won't kill the leaders of the ruffians and the leader and, like, let's say assistant that took over your hobbit lands and it's like a disaster now. Like, I don't, okay. That's just bizarre to me. Maybe I'm missing something in those letters or interviews, but that does not make any sense. Even if you're going on like pure good versus pure evil, just because he didn't personally hurt you, Frodo, does not mean that he can't be killed off. Because how many people have been harmed, enslaved, killed, so on and so forth under his rule? Just saying. Another part that I was not a huge fan of was the ending. It's very quick, and I think this is where the movie does it better, where, like, you know, Aragorn and Arwen get together and he's crowned and they all bow to the hobbits and we wrap it up, and then the hobbits are back in the Shire. And there's a heaviness still though. And then beautifully done cinematography shows that Frodo's just done. He's exhausted. Like, we can clearly see he's exhausted. And then it goes into them going to the west on that very pretty ship. And that makes sense. That ending makes sense. Also because it's like, do you really need to show the, what was it, maybe like 25 pages of my copy where it's just the aftermath of them like hanging out in Gondor, and then they travel and people leave gradually, and then they're finally in the Shire, and like there's a little bit of slight reprieve, and then you get the Scourging of the Shire, and then it's the last chapter talking about Frodo wants to visit Bilbo and Sam's going with them, and oh look, there's a ship, he's going to the west. And then Pippin and Merry are like, oh wait, you forgot to bring us along, you can't forget about us. And then Bilbo and Frodo and a bunch of other people get on the ship, and then Merry and Pippin just ride off and they're laughing and they're singing, and Sam's like, okay. And then he comes back to his home with Rosie and he's like, I'm back. What? Where's the emotional aspect to that? I don't know. I did not feel emotional reading that, but I cry every single time watching the Return of the King ending, even though it is good overall for Frodo and Bilbo, because they are just haunted by the ring. They've been completely changed. They can't handle, you know, living in Middle Earth, so they got to go somewhere else. But that's emotional. I don't get that at the end. And now I have been told, and I've read, and I've also listened to a lot of people say that Tolkien thinks that Samwise Gamgee is actually the hero. And interesting. You could kind of see that because in the last part, in the last chapter, it ends with Sam in his home with Rosie and his kids, and he says, I'm back. But there's not much emotional something. I'm missing some emotional stuff with Frodo leaving. I totally understand that they were a pair. They couldn't have done it without each other, and also they couldn't have done it without Gollum / Smeagol, especially at the end when Frodo didn't want to, throw in that ring, and Gollum basically did it for him, and Frodo admits that. I totally understand all of that, but Frodo still sacrificed his whole life, basically, to do this. And now Sam, Merry, and Pippin are still in the Shire. And though they have emotional wounds and all that stuff, and they are changed, they're not as changed as Frodo. He sacrificed his whole life to save Middle-earth. I would say he's the #1 hero, and then Sam can be 2. But I don't think Sam is 1. See, this is how art is so subjective. I don't see that at all, especially because Frodo is never gonna be the same. Probably not even gonna be completely healed when he goes into the West. That's why reading is subjective. I did not get the whole Sam is the true hero. No, it's Frodo. I mean, and everyone in the Fellowship, hero. On point. Eowyn, hero. Theoden, hero. There's a lot of heroes going on. But I would say #1 is Frodo. Please leave in the comments why that might not be a thing for, I guess, Tolkien. And other fans, I'm confused why he would be like #2 and Sam's #1. Okay. I would love to know. Thank you so much. My favorite parts are always going to be Legolas and Gimli, and I wanted more, but I will take what I got because they're my faves. I just love that they have a friendship and they saw past their differences and their past grievances with elves and dwarves in general, and they became besties. That was a cute part in one of the appendixes where Legolas befriends Gimli's son, and after Gimli's son passes away, I'm pretty sure, then he goes to the West, and I think that is a testament to true friendship and overcoming bigotry. I would say bigotry because the whole situation with dwarves and elves. I think you see a little bit more so in other works, but it's, of course, played up in The Lord of the Rings, and like you have to fill in with context from other stuff. But yes, it's bigotry and past grievances that you're seeing Gimli and Legolas fixing as the chapters go by in these 3 books. And at the end, it's a beautiful friendship. I love to see it. I want more. I want more happy-go-lucky friendships that start off rocky, but you fix everything, kind of everything, at the end of the day. Those are my thoughts that I'm really still mulling over, stewing over. And I'm sure I've upset some people, but you know what? That's okay. I am interested in reading some other stuff by Tolkien, but mainly about elves. Elves are my favorite. Don't completely care about everyone else. I don't know. I just love elves, people. I'm just going to read all the things about elves and then just forget about other things until maybe when I'm older and I have more time to care about dwarves, hobbits, and humans. But at this point, I'm going to be focusing on reading about the elves of Middle-earth because that's what I find fascinating. So stay tuned for that whenever that's going to happen. Don't quote me on that, okay? It could be a while. But I definitely am glad that I read the whole series. I read The Hobbit when I was younger and I loved that. I actually gave it 4 out of 5 stars. If I read The Hobbit when I was in my 30s, like I'm reading The Lord of the Rings, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it. But like I said a few times, I tried to read The Lord of the Rings many times as a kid, preteen, and teenager. Did not work out. I think The Lord of the Rings is more in-depth and honestly harder to follow than The Hobbit. So I'm glad that I read all 4 of those books, and I am thankful for Brian sending me the box set. Thank you again. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and leave your comments down below. We'll see how that goes. Don't try and attack me too hard for my opinions on The Return of the King. But look, I have heard many people say that The Return of the King is one of the harder books to go through, even though it's technically shorter than the other 2. So maybe I'm not completely wrong in my opinions. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.